So thanks again for dropping by the channel. If you're new to the channel, you like the content, please hit subscribe. Now let's get into this. So obviously we know the rematch with Anthony Joshua, I think in the next, I think it's only 6 weeks away, give or take. So we're only 6 weeks away from the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Ruiz. Now, maybe this week or maybe next week, I'm going to do a video on that with just a few little worries I have about that fight. Not necessarily the fight itself, but just the worries I have of maybe a pullout from Andy Ruiz as opposed to Anthony Joshua. I'll get into that a little bit more later in a different video. But in terms of now, the fight's still on, and maybe it's just me losing my mind thinking the fight won't happen, but for now it's still on. And I want to talk about one of Anthony Joshua's sparring partners. So he has been sparring a guy, and I've seen footage of this guy on YouTube. He seems to have very fast hands. A German fighter who's 24 years old, 6'3". His name is Albon. These names are the hardest part of YouTube. Albon Pervizaj. I think is how you pronounce it. If I'm wrong, so be it. Anyone asks, this is the hardest part of YouTube is the names. Seriously, they kill me. And he is, as I said, 6'1". He is 12-0 with 9 knockouts, 24 years old. Judging by his box rec, he's not really beating anybody. You know, he's really, really poor opposition. Nobody there with barely a winning record. I think his last 3 opponents have had winning records, to be fair, but they've been 3-0, 3-0 and 5-0. And this next guy he's fighting is 3-0 with 1 draw. So okay, so he's not exactly even fighting stellar opposition. He's not exactly known, but from the footage I've seen of him on Twitter, he does appear to have actually, you know, decent enough hand speed. Now, Anthony Joshua is using this opponent for the hand speed as opposed to the front foot counter punch by the looks of things. I would argue this guy's hands may even be a little bit faster than Ruiz. He seems to have very fast hands, definitely. And that's what Anthony Joshua needs. He needs to be in there with someone who can mimic Andy Ruiz as good as he can. But what I hope that's happening in sparring with Anthony Joshua is that he's using his height and reach and box on the back foot as opposed to trying to, you know, go for it again. You know, I saw an interview with Jonathan Banks where he actually said that he heard Robert McCracken say to Anthony Joshua to fight Andy Ruiz on the inside. I mean, if that's true, then Rob McCracken, Anthony Joshua needs to look at that trainer. Because if there's 2 things you don't do. Don't exchange with Ruiz, and don't fight him on the inside when he has the shorter arms and the much faster hands. That's just asking for trouble. So I hope Anthony Joshua, if he's any chance of winning this rematch, is box on the back foot. You know, not going hell for leather in there, trying to, you know, prove something. Because that's what got him caught. That's ultimately what got him taken out. So I'm hoping Anthony Joshua is learning to use his fundamentals. But realistically, I genuinely do. Like, I'll be picking Anthony Joshua to win this rematch if he boxes on the back foot. I'm going to assume he will. They're picking him to win this rematch. But do I think Anthony Joshua is going to, you know, be the star he was? No. Do I think he'll lose again? I think it will take another loss. And I think that it'll be another bad loss for Anthony Joshua to realise that he needs to change things around in his team. You know, where's the whole George Foreman kind of thing on? He's meant to reach out to George Foreman. That would have been a great move, because George Foreman, very knowledgeable man, very good boxing brain, very switched on, very old school. There's one thing I've seen about George Foreman. If you see footage of him when he was training his son, who no longer boxes, hill runs, plenty of running, miles on the road. I know myself that I do a lot of running, and when I don't do a lot of running, my spars tend to be bad, and I tend to, you know, be gassed very quickly. When I'm hitting the road a lot and I'm doing a lot of running, I mean, my legs just keep going, you know. There's been times where I've done like 6 rounds, you know, little light spars, and I've maybe gone in a little bit. This is when I've been doing a lot of running. I've gone in a little bit, you know, really thrown a lot of energy in there, and I've thought to myself, maybe I should back off and maybe take a round off and not exert it. But even in the next round, my legs are still full of energy. And when I don't run, you know, I really feel it. So I think Anthony Joshua, now to be fair, I'm only a middleweight. He's a heavyweight, and I'm not 6'6", 250 odd pounds. So he probably can't run as much as, say, someone like a George Foreman or someone like that. But That's what I think Josh should be doing. Should maybe look at the old school kind of things and maybe taking people like a George Foreman who have a real boxing IQ, have a boxing brain, or boxing true and true, and understand it, as opposed to... I know Rob McCracken's boxed. I know he's a decent coach for Carl Froch. He's on the GB team. He boxed himself. But I think sometimes you need to go back. You look at the old school and see what they did. Maybe apply it to yourself. Lifting weights, hitting your VO2 max, all this stuff, it's all well and good. But you're training for a fight at the end of the day. You're not training for a football match. You're training for a fight. Miles on the road is the thing I think you need to do. Personally. Miles on the road and functional training. So what I mean by functional training is, if you can, chopping some wood, lifting a few logs, all that kind of stuff will get you in very good stead. I've done a lot of that, and I can tell you now it works. That's my thoughts on this. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Let me know what you think down below what Anthony Joshua should do moving forward and what you think of his choice of sparring partner. Leave it all down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will talk to you after.